Vodacom has expressed what many people who want faster and better internet access know, that South Africa is falling behind on broadband access. Releasing results today, the mobile giant says it's done everything to deal with the data rush, but it's crucial that more so-called spectrum becomes available for fast mobile services such as 4G to be rolled out more widely. The release of spectrum has been delayed due to delays in government's digital broadcast migration project, which needs to happen first. Now, Vodacom recently overtook MTN as the biggest telecoms company by market value in Africa. Its local customer base grew by more than 6% in the year that ended in March, but some customers in other countries left the network, reducing Vodacom's overall customer base to 61 million people. Earlier, I spoke to CEO Shameel Joosub about today's financial results and Vodacom's recent loss in the Constitutional Court against the inventor of the Please Call Me service. I started by asking him for his response to today's results.
I think it's been a superb set of results, and for me it's been a culmination of a couple of years of hard work, but also the increased capital investment that we've put in both in networks in South Africa and in all our operations really now starting to bear fruit. The customer part is really an issue of customer registration, where we've had to make some deletes, but obviously that's been done across all operators, so it doesn't really affect our market shares.
All right, so not too worried about that. You are so dominant now in terms of revenue, even bigger than MTN on the continent. But does it feel like this is a crossroads, because fibre seems to be flying? A lot of the smaller companies are making a name for themselves. Competition, is it coming, and how are you responding right now?
Look, I think fibre is definitely the future, and I think is a definite growth area for us. And that's the negative of the Neotel deal not happening, to be frank. But we have got plans. Our organic plans are quite strong, but we are also looking at other opportunities in the area to see how we can further accelerate in our fibre plans specifically.
In your statement this morning, it seemed like that frustration is coming through again with regulators. What's going on behind the scenes? Are you speaking to government? You saying again that things are being delayed?
Yeah, I think basically what's happening is that data is exploding. Now we have to build out fixed, so data is exploding, so which means we need more fixed infrastructure and we need more mobile infrastructure. And so to be able to cope with the amount of traffic, our traffic's growing 46% a year now, off a very large base. So what happens is there's only so much physically you can do with the existing spectrum. So in theory, we could launch 4G countrywide overnight. We already have 58% 4G coverage. But what's happening is we don't have enough spectrum to be able to do that. And so that's the frustration that's building up, is that we need more spectrum to be able to cope with the demand from consumers. We are talking to government, and we're having those engagements, firstly as an industry, but also individually as Vodacom, with the different government departments, to try and see how we can, one, speed up, and two, what will the form of the allocation of that spectrum be in the future.
And are those engagements frustrating?
No, I think it's there's certain practicalities. As an example, one of the issues is that you've got to finish the digital migration, which is essentially moving TVs from the analog signal to digital signal. That spectrum is what we need for 4G. So you have to finish the digital migration before the spectrum can be available. So there's been delays in that, in terms of basically shifting, getting customers to convert, giving customers set-top boxes and so on, so that they can convert to the digital signal. Then that spectrum becomes available, then it can be allocated. So we need a roadmap in which to achieve it.
Can we move to something else? Recently, the Constitutional Court found against Vodacom in that Please Call Me case. You weren't CEO at the time, but quite a castigation, quite an indictment on Vodacom culture because of the way it was handled, looking like a company that steals ideas. Do you believe there's a cultural problem, and what are you doing about it personally?
No, look, I think we could have, it's unfortunate that we've landed up where we have. and maybe we could have done things a bit differently. So one accepts that, but I think, a company like Vodacom is built on lots of innovation and lots of different ideas from employees, and I think that was basically one of the debates that was raging here, and many ideas and innovation have led to the success of what Vodacom is today. So I don't think we're really in a position where we steal people's ideas as such. I think there's an issue here, which is a different issue. Was there, the company wouldn't normally make a contractual commitment to employee because it's expected that you would generate the ideas within that. In this case, the Constitutional Court found differently, that there was a contract between the company and the employee, and as such, Vodacom respects that, and we're now moving to the situation where we start negotiations with Mr. McCarthy to find a resolution.
I think you had 30 days. Have those negotiations started? And are you going to be fair or generous? How are you going in, with what attitude going into those negotiations?
No, I think we're going in very much with the attitude of trying to find resolution to the matter. And, basically the company will negotiate with Mr. McCarthy. And if the company can't find resolution, or between them they can't find resolution, the court is directed that myself as CEO then needs to determine a reasonable compensation.
All right. We'll come to that hopefully when it happens. My final question. MTN losing market capitalization, Vodacom overtaking in Africa, but that was mainly because of a problem in Nigeria. It's not your problem, but I guess it points to cultural issues, the way mobile operators conduct themselves. Are you taking any lessons from what happened in Nigeria? And you're not in as many African countries, but there does seem to be perhaps a growing risk with regulators. Is that how you see it?
Well, look, I think your risks with regulators are always there, but you have to ensure that you comply with the law. On the MTN matter, I think the issue or the fine that's been implemented, I think is too big for what the issue is. I think the need to comply, I think, is extremely important, and that's why you've seen we've deleted customers and so on. So yes, it does make us all sit up and make sure that customer registration specifically, which is difficult, to be frank, because your level of IDs and your level of passports in a number of our territories are not necessarily there. So it does make things a lot difficult.